Well, hey everybody, Mr. Mack here. Back for chapter 17. We are so close to the end. There's only 18 chapters in this novelization. 18 chapters plus the epilogue. But I am so anxious to get into this chapter. If you remember, Ian and Barley had, and Dad's legs, had made it where they wanted to go traveling the path of peril, being chased by the police. Barley sacrificing Guinevere, bringing down the boulders to stop the police. They were almost drowned, and they finally got up and above. Ian was the first to get up through that last opening, and chapter 16 ended with Ian squinting at the daylight, and when his eyes got used to it, he couldn't believe what he saw. My prediction was that he saw perhaps maybe a pedestal or something with the Phoenix gem, that he, finally had reached it, gotten it. They're there. That was my prediction. And think about what yours was at the end of chapter 16, and we shall find out. Ian's smile dissolved as he realized where this long journey had taken them. To the middle of downtown New Mushroomton. His eyes darted around as they landed on each familiar landmark. So that would be like you or I, depending on where you're living, watching this video, but if we were in Smyrna and we went on the same kind of quest, getting to where we thought would be the end, and we got up, and there we were standing in the middle of Main Street in Smyrna. Goodness gracious. I never expected that. They were right back where they had started. Barley climbed up beside him and looked around, just as shocked. Whoa. People walked around the square, bored and oblivious like any other day. The boys peered out of the manhole in the street, wet, disheveled, and exhausted. They wearily climbed out, and a truck, honked at them, and Barley pulled Ian and Dad out of the street just in time. "We're back home," Ian said. "No, wait a minute. It just doesn't make sense," said Barley. "It just doesn't make sense. We took the path of peril." And he looked down at the wet, tattered kids menu and the stone from the raven statue. You remember that clover-shaped stone. "We followed the ravens. We went to the end of the water." And he looked more closely at the stone and he mumbled, "Unless the X meant stay away from the water." And he turned the stone, looking at the X another way. Or could it be like a campfire? Ian was just crushed. "It's okay, brother," said Barley. "We can figure this out." "Figure what out?" said Ian. "We're back where we started." "It has to be here. There was a gauntlet. I mean, unless that gauntlet was for, coincidentally, some different quest. It doesn't make sense either." And he lowered his head. "It's a possibility. No. This has to be where the Phoenix gem is. It has to be, because I followed my gut. My gut's never wrong, brother." "Oh no," said Ian. "The gem is in the mountain. The mountain we could have been on hours ago if we just stayed on that expressway, Barley." "No. The expressway's too obvious, remember? You could never take the... If I had listened to you..." "Yeah, okay," interrupted Ian, fuming. "I can't believe this. You act like you know what you're doing, but you don't have a clue. And that's because you're a screw-up. And now, you've screwed up my chance at having the one thing I never had. Ian's really upset. Barley looked at Ian. He was hurt. Ian took Dad by the leash and started walking toward the park. "Where are you going?" Barley asked. "To spend a little bit of time that I have left with Dad." Ian looked at the staff in his hands with disgust, and he handed it to Barley. Barley called after him. "We can still find the Phoenix gem. We just have to keep looking. We can't give up. We have to persist. We gotta persevere." But Ian continued, ignoring Barley. And as they walked through the park, Dad searched around with his foot. Now, you know, Dad always does that when he's looking for one of the boys. "No, Dad, he's not here," said Ian, knowing he was looking for Barley. Ian found a spot on the cliff and sat with Dad to watch the sunset over the ocean. It had been close to 24 hours since Ian had cast a visitation spell in his bedroom. Remember, this spell with Dad only lasts 24 hours. He knew they were almost out of time. Meanwhile, Barley frantically searched for another clue. "Come on, where is it?" And he spotted the old fountain in the middle of town, and he gasped. "Follow the water." And he hurried toward it, jumped in. Onlookers all over the street pointed and whispered as he sloshed around the dirty water. 2 construction workers approached. "All right, come out of the fountain. Come on, guy," one fellow said. "No, I'm looking for an ancient gem," said Barley. "Yeah, we know, the old days," said the other worker. "No, stop, please, no," begged Barley. The workers tried to pull him away, and people passing by just stopped and stared. Okay, fine. "I'm leaving," said Barley, surrendering. And then he broke free and he raced into the water. They tried to grab hold of him, but he climbed to the top of the fountain, wrapping his arms around its tall spire. If you remember at the beginning of the story, Barley was caught on video trying to hold on to these ancient things that construction workers and others were trying to destroy. So this isn't unlike Barley. The construction workers already know, okay, well, this is Barley. Barley, remember, is still on the quest. Can someone call the cops?" said one of the workers. "We got the history buff here again." Barley looked disheveled, desperate, and confused. Clinging to the fountain with the crowd staring at him, he suddenly felt like the screw-up everyone had always believed him to be. Poor Barley. Time jump. On the cliff, Ian sat with Dad, watching the setting sun streak the sky with pinks and purples. Ian pulled out his list, heartbroken to miss the opportunity to do the things with Dad that he'd wanted to. He began to cross out each item. Ian had made a list, and remember the list at the beginning, his list, driving and whatever. This was a more involved list that he would have done with Dad. And when he got to driving lesson, he paused. And he thought about how he had driven Guinevere when Barley was tiny. He remembered Barley instructing him and cheering him on. Ian knew it wasn't quite what he had expected when he'd written the list, but he placed a check mark next to it. In other words, he did it. He did a pretty good job driving, too. Also on his list was play catch. Something to do with your dad, A memory of Barley throwing a piece of cheese puff and Ian catching it with magic came to mind. We remember that happening too. He gave that a check. Next he saw laugh together. He recalled cracking up while dancing with Barley and Dad at the rest stop. And he checked that off as well. Finally, he looked at the last item. Share my life with him. Ian's mind was flooded with memories of growing up with Barley. He could see them as kids playing in the pool together and having pillow fights. He remembered how Barley had taught him how to ride a bike. Barley always seemed to be there for him, cheering him on with confidence and pride. So even though this list was made for things to do and things to do with Dad, he's pretty much done them all. Barley has been his anchor, his rock, the one who's always been there. Ian was surprised when he noticed he had checked off every single item on his list. He smiled as tears welled up in his eyes. I have to be careful because they're going to well up in mine in a minute. He folded the paper and put it in his pocket, and then he stood, took Dad by the leash, and raced off to find his big brother. Ian realized something. He realized he was wrong. We're back. Time jump. Barley was still on top of that fountain. Police officers called to him from below, but he refused to come down. Son, get off that thing! Barley just held on, absolutely refusing to let go. And as he continued scanning for a clue, looking everywhere he could, Barley noticed a clover shape on the fountain that matched the stone from the raven statue. I think I said, did I say clover shape? It is the shape that was in, the clover shape, which matched the same one that was on the raven statue. He slowly pushed the stone into place, and it fit perfectly like the final piece of a puzzle. Slowly, a chamber in the fountain opened. The sparkling phoenix gem was revealed. Barley lit up with joy, and he laughed in disbelief. He grabbed the gem, not noticing the red, smoky mist rising up out of the fountain. Ian spotted Barley and ran toward him, calling out his name, "Barley! Barley!" Barley grinned at the sight of his brother, and he held up the stone. Ian was thrilled until he saw the red mist curling into the air. "Behind you, Barley, look!" Barley turned to see the mist waft past and shocked the shocked people and shocked police officers. Suddenly a realization dawned on him, and Barley yelled, "It's a curse!" That's the end of chapter 17. Well, my prediction didn't work out. It went in a different way. That's the best thing about books like this, pieces of fiction, is you never know where they're going to go. I thought for sure, maybe perhaps when chapter 17, in chapter 17, it would have been revealed that Ian saw the Phoenix gem. Didn't work out that way. Anyway, very exciting. Oh, there was a little bit of a rift between Ian and Barley. Ian was fed up. It was so close to it. This whole seeing Dad thing being over. Remember, it only had 24 hours. 24 hours is almost up. So Ian went off. Barley continued. Ian realized his mistake and realized that Barley's been his father figure. Barley has been the one who has helped shape his life into, a whole bunch of awesomeness. So, but now there's the red mist. The Manticore spoke about a curse. There's only one thing that can stop the curse. We know what that is, the sword, the curse crusher. Chapter 18. The red mist drifted across the street, forming a giant sphere in front of the high school. The sphere shot out tentacle-like arms that burst through the school, tearing through walls and lockers and classrooms. It grabbed the debris and used it to form an armor of a terrible beast, and it became a huge, massive dragon. Part of the gymnasium's wall depicting the school's goofy dragon mascot slid over to become the beast's face. It eyed the gem in Barley's hand and roared a terrifying, garbled version of the school bell. Roar! And then it barreled towards Barley. "Barley, run!" screamed Ian, hurrying to his brother. Barley jumped down from the fountain, grabbed the staff, and took off. He called to the dragon. "What do you want? The gem?" And he paused as he thought for a moment. "Fine, take it." Ian was stunned as he watched his brother throw the gem as far as he could, sending the dragon racing after it. Barley and Ian ran toward each other, and Barley revealed that he still had the real gem. That was a fake one. He had tricked the dragon by throwing Guinevere's turn signal light instead. Barley's got it going on. Didn't take long for the dragon to realize it had been fooled. It turned and breathed a path of fire between Barley and Ian, so they were unable to reach each other. The dragon sprouted wings and took flight, and then dove down at Barley. A dark shape suddenly swooped down from the sky. Who do you think this dark shape might be? And it came down with a mighty roar. The manticore held the curse crusher high as she sliced the beast when she soared by, knocking it to the ground. Barley cheered, "Yeah, the mighty manticore!" Ian squinted and saw someone riding on the manticore's back. "Mom?" Laurel stood atop the manticore heroically. "It's okay, boys," she called. "We'll take care of this thing." And suddenly the manticore began to rip to one side. "Oh, whoa, you're tilting," said Laurel, encouraging the manticore to straighten out. "Straighten out, hon. Oh. And finally the manticore straightened out and Mom could stand straight. Ian called to his mother, worried, but she shouted, "Go see your father." "It's okay," Barley yelled to Ian. "If they stab the beast's core with that sword, the curse will be broken. Come on." Running up the hill, Ian dragged Dad on the leash as he hurried beside the fire path, trying to get to Barley. The dragon took off after the manticore, giving chase over the cliffs and the ocean. The manticore veered back toward land and dragged her sword along the ground, kicking up dirt into the dragon's eyes. And she flew back around and sliced off one of the dragon's wings and then the other one. In the meantime, the boys met at the top of the hill, and Barley handed Ian the staff and placed the gem in its space at the top. In the meantime, Barley, about earlier. Listen, I'm really sorry, said Ian. "There's no time," said Barley. "The sun is about to set." And they looked toward the lowering sun. It seemed to be sinking faster now. Ian wanted to say more, but he knew Barley was right. He held out the staff and recited, "Only once is all we get. Grant me this rebirth. Till tomorrow's sun has set, one day to walk the earth." And a light beam of light, very bright, emanated from the staff. Ian held it with all his might, helping to make the magic work. The manticore flew toward the dragon, fast and fierce. "Time to crush this curse!" She was about to deliver the killing blow when the dragon rose up and swatted the manticore and Laurel out of the sky with its tail, sending them crashing to the ground. Laurel got up, but the manticore was unable to move. "Oh, my back!" she screeched. Determined, Laurel picked up the curse crusher. She saw the dragon turn its attention back to the boys, and she sprang into action. "I am a mighty warrior!" And she climbed up the tail of the dragon. The music from her warrior workout video played in her mind as she used her moves to get closer and closer to the glowing core within the dragon's center. The dragon reared up to attack the boys, and Laurel held the sword above her head with both hands. "I am a mighty warrior!" she shouted. She stabbed the dragon, but only part of the sword made it past the armor into the beast's core. The boys watched as the dragon froze. Laurel struggled to keep the sword in place. "Hurry! I can't hold this for long," Mom said. The gem slowly lifted out of the staff and it spun. A warm light glowed around it, and the staff began to shake, just as it did when Ian had conjured Dad in his bedroom. No, 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 Ian said, afraid he might lose his grip again. The magic swelled and was about to explode. Barley! Barley ran over and braced his back against Ian's, giving him support that he needed. The gem rose over Dad and began raining powerful magic upon him, slowly building the rest of his body. Legs already there, slowly building the torso. Remember, the shirt with the buttons and the shoulders and the arms. Just then, Laurel saw the dragon's armor begin to shift, slowly pushing the sword out of its core. The beast began to move again, and it knocked Laurel down, flinging the sword into a pile of lockers. Boys! It's coming back! She yelled. The dragon locked its eyes on the gem. Ian and Barley watched, terrified that the dragon might get to the gem before Dad was complete. Barley turned to Ian. I'll distract it. What? No, if you do that, you'll miss Dad. It's okay. Say hi to Dad for me. Ian knew what he had to do. No, you go and say goodbye, he said firmly, and he looked into Barley's eyes. I had someone who looked out for me, someone who pushed me to be more than I ever thought I could be. I never had a dad, but I always had you. Barley opened his mouth to respond, but before he could say anything, Ian grabbed the staff and sped off. He ran down the mountain and, without hesitation, leapt off the edge, calling out the trust bridge spell. Bridge Regar Invicia! Glowing spots of light appeared under Ian's feet as he ran, and when he approached the dragon, he cried, Bombastia! Fireworks shot from his staff, blinding the beast. It whipped its tail towards Ian as he shouted, Aloft, Delavar! He stopped the tail with his magic. And then suddenly the dragon pulled its tail back in fury, sending Ian's staff sailing over the cliff and into the ocean. The trust bridge disappeared with the staff, and Ian fell, crackling his ankle. The dragon passed over Ian and marched straight toward Dad and Barley. No, 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 shouted Ian. Dad's body generated next to Barley as Barley fearfully counted the seconds, watching the beast move toward them. Use what I have, said Ian, remembering Barley's words. What do I have? I have nothing. And he looked down at his empty hands. A splinter of wood from the staff had lodged itself into his skin. Magic in every fiber. He used his teeth to remove the tiny splinter and held it between his fingers. Magnora Ganchuan! At his command, the splinter grew into a full-size staff. Ian saw the dragon approach Barley and Dad, its mouth nearly on the gem, and with every part of himself, Ian shouted, Voltar Thunderseer! Ba-bam! A colossal bolt of white lightning shot from his staff, blasted the armor right off the dragon, knocking it to the ground. The dragon's weak spot was now exposed. Laurel finally reached the curse crusher and pulled it out of the pile of debris. She called to Ian and hurled the sword toward him. Excelsior! Ian shouted, catching it. The sword magically swung above his head, and just as the dragon began to rise, Ian sent the sword deep into its core. The curse billowed into the air as an enormous cloud, and then it disappeared. Ian fell to the ground, exhausted, surrounded by the rubble of the dragon's armor. The beast was gone, and all was silent. And you see what I love about a story is every part of the story is important. Even a part that you don't even think about until later, when both Ian and Barley had gotten a splinter from the staff. The splinters would save them, because magically it became another staff. Awesome. Time jump. When Ian tried to stand, a sharp pain shot through his ankle. He crackled his ankle. And then a warm burst of light came from the top of the hill. Ian limped as he carefully climbed up a pile of rubble, trying to get a view of Barley and Dad. And at the top of the peak, Barley stood face to face with a glowing figure. The glowing subsided to reveal Dad, complete from head to toe. From his place in the rubble, Ian could only see Dad's back. He wished he could get closer, but he couldn't get through the debris with his injured ankle. He watched Dad and Barley talking and laughing together. The sun sank below the horizon as Dad gave Barley a hug. Then, in an instant, he vanished in Barley's arms. Barley quickly made his way toward Ian and helped him out of the rubble. "What did he say, Barley? What did he say?" He said he always thought his wizard name would be Wilden the Whimsical." "Wow, that's really terrible," said Ian with a laugh. "I know," Barley said before continuing. "He also said he's very proud of the person you grew up to be." "Well, I owe an awful lot of that to you, Barley." "And he kind of said that too," said Barley. "Oh, and he told me to give you this." Barley leaned down and gave Ian a huge, loving hug. And Ian didn't hold back as he hugged his big brother back with all his heart. Well, that's it. Granted, Ian didn't get to meet his father, but he had a father figure his whole life. And that was, of course, Barley, who did everything he could to try to be the father who had passed away, So, there's an epilogue. Remember, an epilogue comes at the end of a story, kind of ties up any loose ends, gives us a little bit more, just like the beginning had a prologue. The prologue kind of gives us a little bit, a kind of a stepping stone. An epilogue ties things up or gives us that little bit of at the end of the story. A while later, the Manticore stood in her tavern, which she had transformed back to how it looked in the glory days. The place continued to be very busy and welcomed anyone looking for an adventure. Dewdrop played darts with her fellow pixie dusters, and she tossed a dart that started to drop toward the floor, but one of her friends swooped in, grabbed it, and flew it into the bullseye. "Ha ha! Bullseye!" cheered Dewdrop. The Manticore stretched out her wings as she spoke, entertaining a group of customers with one of her adventurous tales. She ignited candles on a cake with her fire breath, and lifted the curse crusher above her head. "And then, with a slash of my mighty sword, I severed the beast's wings from its wretched body," she said, bringing the sword down, splattering frosting everywhere. And she grinned. "Okay, who wants cake?" There was a beat of silence before all the kids cheered, "Yay!" So even though she brought it back to the way it used to be, she's having a kid's birthday party. Awesome. Their parents watched nervously as they wiped cake from their faces. At the rebuilt high school, Ian stood in front of the classroom of his fellow students, wrapping up a presentation about magic, and he held a wizard's staff. "And I think, with a little bit of magic in your life, you can do almost anything," he said. A student raised her hand. "Is that how you put the school back together?" Yeah, said Ian. Another student interrupted. "Is that also how you destroyed the school in the first place?" There's always that one kid. Yes, that also, said Ian. The bell rang and the class quickly dispersed. A group of students approached Ian as he collected his things. "Hey, that was great," said Sedalia. Remember Sedalia from the beginning? You going to the park later?" asked a troll named Gurge. Yeah, see you there," said Ian, and everyone waved as they parted ways. Later, when Ian walked through the front door of his house, Blazy barreled around the corner and jumped on him, smothering him with kisses. He kneeled and wrestled with her. Laurel hustled around the corner with a spray bottle. "Blazy, down! Down!" Laurel. "Oh, I'm sorry. Who's a good dragon? Who's a good dragon?" Ian said to his pet. "So how was school, dear?" said Ian. "Oh, it was really good," said Ian. "Well, all right," Laurel said, smiling proudly. Just then, Colt came into the room and approached Ian. "Hey there, there he is. You working hard?" "Nope, hardly working," answered Ian, and Colt let out a hearty laugh. Laurel's phone buzzed as she got a text message. She checked her phone. "Oh, I gotta go. I'm meeting the Manticore for a night out." She grabbed the battle axe. "Night out with the girls." Then Colt got a call on his police radio, and he gave Laurel a kiss before quickly leaving. "You forgot your keys," Laurel called. "Don't need 'em," said Colt. "I was born to run. Hi-yah!" Colt's hooves clopped against the ground as he raced away. Ian watched from the living room window as Colt galloped down the road, his mane flowing in the breeze, like centaurs of old. Barley crept up behind Ian and put him in a headlock, and in one swift move, Ian freed himself, slamming Barley to the floor. Barley smiled proudly. Ian reached down and helped him up. "So how's the new van?" "Guinevere II is great. I almost got enough saved up for a sweet paint job," said Barley. "No, oh, please don't," said Ian. "Why not?" Ian held up his staff and smiled. "Because I already took care of it," showing him the magic. He used some magic. He opened the garage to reveal the magical paint job he'd done on Barley's new van. In the art, a Pegasus carried Barley as a warrior, with Ian as a wizard riding behind him. Barley's eyes popped, and he cheered. He absolutely loved it. "Yeah!" said Barley. And that isn't the end yet, sorry. They climbed into the new van, which had a license plate that read Guinevere II. I like that. Barley backed it out of the garage and drove a little while before stopping at a fork in the road. The ramp to the expressway was to the left, and an old path was to the right. Remember what the old path is. "Okay. Best way to the park is to take a little something called the Road of Ruin," said Barley. Too obvious," said Ian. "Wait, what?" "On a quest, the clear path is never the right one," said Ian. Barley cheered. "Yeah!" as Ian raised his staff and cast a spell, magically lifting the van into the air, and with a crackle of magic, the brothers flew off toward the horizon. And that is the end. Excellent book, excellent story, loved every single chapter, as I hope you did too. And now I get to watch the movie to see how it plays out. I'm going to probably watch that tonight. But anyway, so quickly, this was a long read. We're at 33 minutes, so I'm going to make this quick. Thank you for joining me through every single chapter. Thanks for coming back. If you have indeed come back for every chapter, thank you. If you only came back for a few, thank you too. And if this is only your first time coming in and watching this, thanks for that. But I think there's many, many themes in this. There truly are. And sometimes you can put a theme. A theme is sometimes a saying or can put into a phrase, but there are words too. There's words like brotherhood, like family, like sharing, like adventures, taking risks. All of these things factor in, are part of a theme for this book, you know. Never be afraid to take a risk. Always go out there, take the path less traveled by, and that's one of the main themes that I get from this. Don't be afraid to go down a path less traveled by. everybody else is going down there. Well, that's great. It's safe. It's wonderful, and if that's what you want to do, do it. But for something new, something adventurous, to discover something you just would never expect, go down the path less traveled by. And stay true to yourself, stay true to your family. Be good out there, stay safe, stay clean, keep your hands away from your face, your eyes, your nose, and your mouth. Again, thank you for coming back. I read this quickly and made a couple errors, but whatever. It was still fun. Take good care. Leave me a remark. Let me know. I'm going to come up with another book this week, and I'm going to read another book on here. Don't know what it's going to be yet, but I will. Let me find the button. Take good care of yourselves.